Most watch collections follow a pretty predictable path. You've got your Seikos, your Rolex homages, maybe a trending microbrand or two. But after years of actually wearing dive watches day in and day out, something interesting happens. You realize some of the best ones barely get talked about. Not because they're bad, but because they quietly do everything right. So today, we're looking at 5 of the best dive watches that most collectors forget, but probably shouldn't. These are the watches that kept earning wrist time long after the hype faded. Let's get into it. Starting off with the Glycine Combat Sub. This is the definition of an under-the-radar tool watch. At around 10.5 millimeters thick, it's surprisingly slim for a 200-meter automatic diver. That means it actually wears comfortably, slipping under cuffs and staying out of the way during daily use. The design is just as restrained. Matte dial, clean layout, and a flat sapphire crystal that practically disappears in bright light. Inside, you're getting a reliable Sellita-based movement that holds solid accuracy. Nothing flashy, but it just works. Now, it's not perfect. The bezel is a bit stiff, and sizing the bracelet can test your patience. But overall, this is one of those watches that quietly becomes a daily favorite. Next up, the Certina DS PH200M. Vintage-inspired dive watches are everywhere right now, but this one somehow flies under the radar. It's based on a 1960s Certina diver, and you can feel that old-school charm immediately. Domed crystal, simple dial, and just enough personality with subtle red accents. But it's not just about looks. The Powermatic 80 movement gives you an impressive 80-hour power reserve, and Certina's DS system adds real durability with extra shock protection. On the wrist, it feels like a proper go-anywhere watch, especially on a NATO or mesh strap. Downsides? It wears a bit large, and the bezel isn't the crispest out there. Still, this is one of the most versatile vintage-style divers you can get. Now let's talk about the Mido Ocean Star Titanium. This one doesn't impress you instantly, but give it a few days and it starts to make a lot of sense. The titanium case keeps it incredibly light, which makes a huge difference over long wear. And at under 12 millimeters thick, it's slim for a modern diver. The dial is where things get interesting. Subtle texture, great anti-reflective coating, and excellent legibility in almost any lighting. You also get another 80-hour movement and a really comfortable bracelet with a ratcheting clasp for quick adjustments. It does have a few quirks. The crown can be stubborn and the fit might not be perfect for smaller wrists. But as a daily wear diver, it's seriously underrated. The Archimede SportTaucher is probably the least talked about watch on this list. And that's a shame, because it's built like a proper tool. The case has this clean CNC machined look. No unnecessary polish, no fluff, just a solid, functional design. One standout feature is the crown at 4 o'clock. It makes a huge difference in comfort, especially if you're wearing it all day. The dial is simple but clever, with a raised chapter ring that avoids alignment issues you often see at this price. The movement is a standard Sellita SW200, reliable but with a shorter power reserve. And while the bezel has a tiny bit of play, it still feels solid overall. This is a watch for people who actually use their divers. Finally, the Longines HydroConquest. This one's interesting because it's not exactly unknown, but it often gets overlooked in favor of flashier options. And that's surprising once you wear it. The case is well balanced, sitting low on the wrist despite its specs. The ceramic bezel adds durability, and the finishing is a clear step up from many competitors. The dial is clean and refined, with just enough detail to keep it interesting without feeling busy. Inside, you've got the Longines L888 movement with a solid 72-hour power reserve. The main drawback is the bracelet. It feels a bit basic compared to the rest of the watch, but as an all-rounder, this thing just works. So those are 5 dive watches that don't always get the spotlight, but absolutely deserve a place in the conversation. They're not the loudest, they're not the trendiest, but they're the ones that keep showing up on your wrist long after the excitement of a new purchase fades. If you've owned any of these, let us know your experience. And if you've got an underrated diver that never leaves your rotation, we'd love to hear about it. Thanks for listening, and we'll see